Let's start with our first news. Bisping blasts Arman, calling him a spoiled brat. On his latest podcast episode, Bisping went off on Arman after the recent airplane incident where he was reportedly kicked off a flight due to controversial behavior on board. Bisping questioned his attitude and public actions, saying it is never a good look, no matter the circumstances. He also pointed out that Arman comes from a wealthy background, suggesting he lives an unbelievable lifestyle, but still finds himself in unnecessary controversy. Bisping referenced the incident where Arman was removed from an American Airlines flight after refusing to get off his phone, labeling it as spoiled behavior. Beyond that, Bisping brought up other issues, including Arman allegedly punching a fan while walking out of an event, and his withdrawal from a previous world title fight against Islam Makhachev due to injury and weight issues. Despite the criticism, Arman is currently on a strong 5-fight win streak, including dominant victories over Daniel. Hooker and Charles Oliveira. Bisping also noted that Arman remains in line for a potential UFC lightweight title shot once Ilya finishes his upcoming fight against Justin Gaethje at the White House event. Meanwhile, Arman continues competing in grappling matches in RAF, one where he has been facing criticism for taking on older or smaller opponents, with RAF gaining attention after signing Khamzat Chimaev. Fans are now discussing a possible matchup between Arman and Colby Covington in a major wrestling clash. Bisping ended by saying Arman's behavior keeps creating headlines both inside and outside the cage. Fans and analysts continue debating his future in the division as pressure builds for his next UFC appearance and potential title opportunity, with opinions sharply divided across the MMA community today. Moving forward into upcoming fight announcements and developments continue. Move on to another news. Khamzat fires back at Joe Rogan's comments. During a recent podcast appearance, Khamzat was asked whether he would ever consider going on the Joe Rogan Experience, especially after Rogan publicly criticized his performances and opponents. The middleweight champion made it clear he has no interest in appearing on the JRE, and he explained exactly why. According to him, Rogan tends to ask leading questions designed to push fighters into talking in ways that can create headlines and controversy. He also said Rogan often dives into politics, something Khamzat believes can easily put athletes in difficult situations if they say the wrong thing. Khamzat suggested that avoiding those situations is one of the main reasons he has never accepted an invitation to the podcast, despite being one of the UFC's biggest stars and a highly requested guest. The timing is notable, coming right after Rogan questioned Khamzat's resume and overall level of competition. Now, Khamzat does not seem interested in sitting down with Rogan anytime soon. Let's hear it from him. Fans reacted strongly online, with many debating whether Khamzat is right to avoid certain media interviews or whether he should embrace them as part of being a champion. Some supporters agreed with him, saying fighters often get misrepresented in long-form conversations, while others argued that top fighters must be willing to face any interviewer, including the biggest platforms in the sport. Meanwhile, Rogan's comments about Khamzat's performances continue to circulate across the MMA community, adding more fuel to an already heated debate about his legacy and level of competition. Despite all the noise, Khamzat remains focused on his career and future fights, choosing to stay away from unnecessary media drama and concentrate on training and competition. His stance has only intensified discussions around fighter media obligations in modern MMA, especially as the sport continues to grow globally and attract mainstream attention. Whether fans agree or disagree, the situation highlights the ongoing tension between athletes, podcasts, and public perception, where every statement can quickly turn into headlines and controversy. Khamzat continues to position himself as someone who prefers performance over promotion, letting his results inside the cage speak louder than interviews or media appearances. For now, he remains one of the most talked about fighters in the division, both for his dominance and his outspoken approach to media engagement moving forward in MMA. Move on to another news. Arman spoke on if Justin Gaethje pulls out of the White House event and what happens next. He explained that if Gaethje withdraws, the UFC would need a massive replacement, and in his view, the biggest option right now would instantly change the entire card. Arman suggested that stepping in at that level would turn the matchup into the most talked about fight in the UFC today. He even claimed that such a fight would generate more attention than Khamzat versus Strickland, calling it a true blockbuster moment for the sport. According to him, the stakes, the hype, and the global interest would make it one of the biggest cash-generating events in UFC history. He emphasized that fans always respond to short-notice drama, and a late replacement fight of that magnitude would immediately dominate headlines worldwide. Arman also noted that opportunities like this can completely change a fighter's career trajectory, especially when the spotlight is at its brightest. He made it clear that he is always ready for big fights and believes the UFC is entering a new era of unpredictable matchups. This situation, he said, shows how quickly everything can shift in modern MMA, especially with high-profile events like the White House card, creating massive pressure on fighters. Arman finished by saying that if Gaethje cannot compete, the UFC must deliver a replacement. That keeps the event at the highest possible level. He stressed that anything less would disappoint fans and reduce the impact of one of the most anticipated UFC showcases in recent memory. The lightweight division continues to watch closely as negotiations, injuries, and last-minute changes could reshape the entire White House event card in dramatic fashion. Moving forward, big stakes everywhere in the UFC. Move on to another news. Jon Jones fires back at Daniel Cormier's steroid comments. Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, who were both coaches on the Russian Alf Global Series, continue their long-running rivalry as new footage from the show keeps surfacing. In one of the latest clips, the tension between the two escalates once again during a heated exchange. Jon reminded Cormier of something he had predicted years before their first fight in 2017. Jon said, "I told you 1 year before we fought that I was going to kick you in the head, and I did it." The comment immediately sparked a sharp response from Cormier. Cormier fired back, saying, "Even a blind squirrel will find a nut every now and again." He got lucky. The exchange only added more fuel to their already intense history inside and outside the cage. The argument did not stop there, as Cormier brought up Jon's past positive tests for banned substances, which Jon has always denied as unintentional use. The discussion quickly turned personal, with Cormier pointing out differences in height and age advantage during their rivalry. Cormier said, 200 centimeter height, 8 years youth difference, and still so insecure that he stuck a needle in his still so insecure 8 years younger. The comments reignited one of the most controversial topics in their rivalry. However, refused to let the accusations go unanswered. He once again referenced his famous head kick prediction from before their first fight, using it as a counter to the steroid claims. Jon said, "A lot of men in this room use steroids. Steroids doesn't allow you to predict a head kick 1 year before it happens." Even though Cormier has been retired for years, the rivalry between the two continues to attract attention whenever new footage or interviews surface. Their history remains one of the most intense in MMA, filled with both physical and verbal battles that have shaped their legacies. Meanwhile, discussions about Jon potentially returning to competition continue to circulate in the MMA world, keeping his name relevant despite his absence from active fighting and ongoing debates surrounding his career and achievements inside the sport moving forward. Move on to another news. Breaking news from the UFC world as fighter Tim Means has reportedly been arrested. Reports claim the incident involves allegations connected to his daughter, who was reportedly the one that called police after an argument escalated inside the home. According to early details, the situation started over something as simple as chores, but it quickly developed into a serious confrontation that led to law enforcement being contacted. Tim Means was arrested on April 21st and later appeared in court on Friday. After the initial hearing, he was released while waiting for his next scheduled court date. The case is still developing, and many details remain unclear as more information continues to surface. Authorities have not released a full public breakdown of the incident, and the situation remains under review. Because of the sensitivity surrounding the allegations, only limited confirmed information has been made available at this time. It is important to note that Tim Means has reportedly claimed self-defense in relation to the incident. However, no official conclusions have been made, and the case will continue to move through the legal system. The situation has gained attention due to the seriousness of the allegations, especially considering Tim's involvement in coaching wrestling at a high school level. This detail has added further scrutiny as the investigation continues. Despite the legal issues, Tim Means is still listed on the UFC roster. However, he has not competed since October 2024, and his future in the promotion is now uncertain depending on how the case develops moving forward. At this stage, no disciplinary action from the UFC has been publicly confirmed, and the organization has not released an official statement regarding his status. Fans are now waiting for updates as the legal process continues and more verified information becomes available. The MMA community remains focused on the situation, with many awaiting clarity on the allegations and the next court proceedings that will determine what happens next in this ongoing case involving the veteran fighter. Move on to another news. Alex Pereira is breaking down his training camp ahead of his heavyweight debut against Ciryl Gane. Alex Pereira is making major waves as he prepares for one of the biggest fights of his career at the UFC White House event. The former two-division champion revealed that even though he is moving up to heavyweight, he will still be cutting some weight before fight night. He expects to step on the scale around 235 to 240 pounds. Despite the reduced weight cut compared to his previous divisions, Pereira admitted that this training camp has been more intense and demanding than any of his earlier preparations. He explained that the focus has shifted heavily toward building serious muscle mass and increasing overall strength to handle the challenges of the heavyweight division. According to Pereira, this is not just a move up in weight, but a complete physical transformation. He is pushing his body to new limits while still trying to preserve the speed, timing, and precision that made him one of the most dangerous strikers in MMA. The matchup against Ciryl Gane is already being described as a high-level kickboxing battle inside the cage. Both fighters are known for elite striking, technical movement, and the ability to finish fights with precision and timing rather than raw aggression. Fans are expecting a tactical war between two of the most skilled strikers in the sport, with the potential for explosive exchanges on the biggest stage possible. Pereira continues to prove why he is considered one of the most feared fighters in the game, showing no hesitation in taking on elite competition even after moving up in weight. He has made it clear that he is not looking for easy fights, instead choosing the most dangerous opponents available as he transitions into a new division. If he successfully adds size without losing his signature power and accuracy, many believe the entire heavyweight division will be on high alert. As anticipation builds, Pereira's training camp continues to attract massive attention, with fans eager to see how his striking translates against a natural heavyweight like Ciryl Gane in one of the most anticipated fights of the year. Move on to another news. Jon Jones reacts to Kamaru's Usman comments. On a recent podcast, Usman and Henry Cejudo were asked to break down how they think a potential RAF matchup between Jon Jones and Brock Lesnar would play out. Usman gave his honest take, saying he believes Lesnar would come out on top in that scenario. That opinion quickly made headlines and reached Jon Jones, who did not hesitate to respond on social media. Jon fired back with a bold statement, writing, "Well, I'm getting my hand raised against you and Brock at the same time." The comment immediately sparked reactions across the MMA community, with fans debating the confidence behind Jon's response and what it would actually look like if those matchups ever happened in any form of competition. Usman's original breakdown had already created discussion, especially because both he and Cejudo were analyzing the matchup from a wrestling-heavy perspective. Lesnar's size and power were highlighted as major factors, while Jon's versatility and experience were also part of the conversation. Jon's reply added even more fuel to the debate, as he doubled down on his belief that he would handle both scenarios without issue. The exchange once again highlighted the long-standing confidence Jon carries when discussing fantasy matchups against other elite fighters. While the discussion stayed hypothetical, it quickly gained traction online, with fans arguing over how Jon's skill set would match up against pure strength and wrestling-based opponents like Lesnar, as well as technical wrestlers like Usman. The conversation also reminded fans of Jon's history of responding directly to criticism or bold predictions from other fighters, often using social media to make his stance very clear. As the debate continues, the MMA world keeps revisiting dream matchups involving Jon Jones, especially when names like Brock Lesnar and Kamaru Usman enter the discussion, keeping his name constantly at the center of heavyweight fantasy fight conversations.